Welcome back to Real Estate Masters with Tamika Bryant, myself, David Johnston. Today, we're hosted at the Negro League Baseball Museum with our guest, Mr. Marvin Lyman of the Black Economic Union. Thanks for joining us, Marvin. We appreciate it today.
Thank you again for having us.
Hey, I'd like to talk a little bit. So we have this $26 million bond issue coming up for the 18th and Vine District. We've heard all kinds of controversies here in Kansas City about it. And you have the haters say, oh, we're just dumping more money into something that hasn't really proved to be successful in the past. How can you speak to that? Or, what do we need to be aware, and why is this important for us? Why do we need to have this bond?
Sure. Great question. Bringing the $27.6 million bond issue to 18th and Vine is really not enough money for the area. When you think about what 18th and Vine represents to the story of Kansas City and how it's the world-renowned address, and how when people think about Kansas City, the first thing that comes to their mind is jazz and barbecue. Mm-hmm. And you think of the home base or the birthplace of jazz and barbecue in Kansas City happens to be 18th and Vine. And so when you think just of just the origin of that and how important it is, then $27.6 million is really a drop in the bucket. Now, there are people out there that put the misnomer out there that $100 million plus has been spent in the area, but they lump all that money, all the monies that have been spent, they lump it in with what's been done on Truman Road and some of the other boulevards and parkways from Paseo Boulevard to the 23rd Street
It's actually
corridor.
Stuff that's not in your
so
community.
It's not stuff that's really directly related to 18th and Vine. So it's really unfair. And you think about the work that City Manager Troy Schulte has done to make sure that a financing mechanism that would work for the city to keep this bond issue solvent. It's been a great effort. The city council charged him with going back with his team and studying the bond issue. And even though there were questions that were raised after that 60-day review period, he continued to stay the course to make sure that monies were brought to this area. And so when you think about that kind of investment, it's really a drop in the bucket, especially when you consider Power and Light, for example. When that agreement was inked, the city has still been on the hook to the tune of about $10 million per year in underwriting the cost of that underperforming development. So what I would like to happen is that people would have Kansas Cityans, those who are interested, to really look at all the facts and to weigh each project based upon its own merit. Now, we can argue that, are we wasting money, continue to invest in Power and Light? I don't think you would be hard-pressed to find people that would say we're wasting money by continuing to reinvest in that project every year to make sure it doesn't go under. And so that's the attitude that we need to take about 18th and Vine, the same care and concern that we would put in other projects outside of the urban core. We need to have that same type of tenacity and creativity, which our city manager had, and our council persons with regards to this bond issue.
Well, that's interesting when you talk about our council persons, because we have, like Mayor Slade James, I know, is a fabulous advocate and wonderful person to begin with, but who else do we need to get on board, or who do we need to be promoting this to within our metro area to get them on board?
I think we have to do a better job, meaning the city administration, as well as those of us who are stakeholders, whether we're talking about the Black Economic Union, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, the Jazz Museum, some of the tenants from the Juke House to the Call Paper. We have to do a better job of telling our successes here in the area. So, for example, when you look at the historic Lincoln Building, which is owned and managed by BEU, it has maintained a great occupancy rate. In fact, we are more than 95% occupied now and have been for several years. I wish I could say I was completely responsible since January 1 of making that happen, but we are able to maintain that building. We have been able to also launch new businesses. So when you look at the bulk, we have over 30 businesses that are located in just across the street here. If we were not here, then this area would not have the activity that it does now. Now, we know that needs to increase, but you have other partners, such as The Call, the oldest black newspaper, that is still functioning, has a great building on the corner, but needs some redevelopment. So we need to tell the success story of the Call paper, for example, and figure out how do we invest? How do we reinvest to make that paper, that publication rise to even to have an even greater future and be here for the next 100 years? We have the Mutual Musicians Foundation, which that our foundation here owns its own building, and it is the original building. And it's approaching 100 years of age, and they will have their 100-year anniversary next year. So you have all of these great stories. You know, where else can you walk in Kansas City and walk into a building where Count Basie, Satchel Paige, and many of our sports and music legends, Mary Lou Williams and others have actually played there. And actually, you know, you go in and you kind of feel their spirits are still living there. So, I mean, we have some great gems that we really just have to, I believe we have to tell our own story. As a former school teacher told me one time, it's a poor dog that won't wag its own tail.
Thanks, Marvin. We're going to take a break
On that.
on this note right here. Wagging
On the dog
tail.
wagging its tail. We're going to take a break.
Thank you. You've been watching us at Real Estate Masters on TV25 with Tamika Bryant and David Johnston. We'll be right back.